Larry Blustein is with us. Blue is all over the place, and he was at Rivals Combine Series this past weekend down in Miami. So, Blue, and I do want to get some of your other top performers, but a player that I feel like Mario Cristobal and Alex Mirabal are very interested in is four-star interior offensive lineman Max Buchanan. He came down from Sanford, Florida, from Seminole High School, 6'4", 275 pounds. Anything you could tell us about where Miami might be trending with him, and how did he look out there at Rivals?
Look really good, and the thing is, I had a chance, I've known Max since he was in the ninth grade, because a lot of camps that I saw him, and I've been really close to his dad, who's a coach on the staff over at Sanford Seminole, and we talked. And the one thing about this guy is he's just so technically sound, and you're not going to beat him because of the fact that he's going to have the upper hand on you almost every single play. And he did yesterday against some really, really good defensive linemen that he went against. I mean, the kid Boucard from Miami Central, who transferred in from Mobile, Alabama, who had an outstanding Under Armour event, and Max kind of neutralized him in their couple of face-offs yesterday. He's a different level. He's a guy that's going to be a major kid, stays healthy. He's going to, be that type of guy that's going to continue to progress and go get into the NFL. I think Clemson right now is Miami, Florida State, Ole Miss, Penn State, just talking to some people. But he likes Miami. And the whole thing is when I talked to his dad, the one thing that he said is he says his relationship with Mirabal and Mario is a special bond. And so when I heard that, I said, well, you know what? I says, he doesn't have to worry, because neither of those guys are going anywhere. So if he does make a commitment based on that, I think him and there was a couple of kids the same way that had that bond, with a couple of coaches. And they go, well, if they leave, I says, yeah, but it doesn't matter, because think about this. Okay, here's a perfect example. Yesterday, one of the top quarterbacks, who happens to be a teammate now of Max Buchanan, Michael Clayton, who's a 2026 quarterback out of the same school, and I've gotten a pretty good relationship with his dad over the years. And he said to me, he says, you know what? He loves Dawson. And but you figure Dawson may be a head coach somewhere soon. I said, yeah, but here's the thing. And it's when you step back and think about it, if he does do that, Mario's going to replace him with somebody like-minded. I mean, obviously, he's not going to be some guy who's a first-year coach. He's going to get a guy who runs that type of offense, a guy who's going to be dynamic, knows his stuff. And that's what I try to explain to him. I says, you can't, it's good to have relationships with coaches, but you got to also understand that these coaches, are good. They're going to move on. And
right. And it's going to happen everywhere, not just Miami.
No question. And, but yeah, you talk about him. He was sensational, and he deserved the MVP, and so did Clayton. And, the kid from Miami Central, Beckham Kritza, kid who came in, he's committed to Penn State. He was here last year, but then left and went back to Colorado. And then the Brady Hart kid from Cocoa looked real good. The Darian Coleman from Orlando Jones. So a lot better quarterback.
Vernell Brown was at this. It was at
yeah. He's a no-brainer.
Yeah. Well, I know also he's been trending to Ohio State. Here Miami still. He says Miami's still in it, but the crystal balls have been flying to Ohio State for him.
Yeah. Well, whatever it is. You try to get who you could get, and it's just there's so much talent. And in Miami, obviously, a lot of the kids, and here was a good thing having the Rivals camp down here, because you had a lot of kids go to the Miami practice. Right. That was great. Buchanan was there. Yeah, I saw a bunch of these other kids, they had an opportunity to come down and they were on hand. So, the kid Drake, Stubbs, who I think is a beast.
Yeah.
And he was there. He was at the Miami and looking good too. Even
what's his deal? Because isn't he like he's committed to USC, but it's like it seems completely still wide open with him, Blue. Like I don't know if maybe he's debating whether he actually wants to go across country or not, but he still seems very open with him.
Well, yeah, I agree. I mean, and he's another guy that I got kind of close to, and talking to him and his parents, and hey, listen, they all had great times the other day at
Mm.
the University of Miami. I mean, because you know how that is. I mean, you roll out the red carpet, guys like him and Vernell, and guys that come down and Waden Charles and people like that, when they get an opportunity to show things off, they do, but they all had a great time. And that was Gavin Nix was there. He couldn't participate. He had surgery. But they had a lot of kids that came to the camp, to the practice, and then they came out yesterday and performed. And I thought that was huge for Miami too, because even though they've gotten a lot of guys over the last, to come down, this was a perfect weekend because they scrimmaged. These guys got a chance to see Isaiah Lofton and Jake and Zaquan, because that, whether you think so or not, that means so much, because these kids were playing against them last year. And here they are, lining up for a pretty decent football team and getting so that really, when you look, like a Max Buchanan and seeing, hey, listen, center's kind of a transient position on this team. If I come in here, I could, solidify it for 4 years. So, or 3 years. So that's the best thing about this too, because Miami's on the rise, but at the same time, there's a few holes that can be filled by a lot of these other kids that, that if they go to Ohio State or they go to Georgia or, some of those other powers, they may have to sit, on the bench for a year or so. And in Miami, they're going to get an opportunity to show what they can do it. And if they do it, they're going to be inserted. If not, they'll have to, continue the process.